when we think of AI within the professional realm, it's no longer something that's optional anymore. AI isn't removing the human element, and I think that's a lot of people fear. I believe that AI is actually raising the bar for the work that you do.
It's not just writing it for me, but it's kind of creating the way that I think too.
It's really not about code, it's about gaining clarity. And again, clarity is power, because when you learn how to structure a prompt, you're really learning how to structure your own thinking.
I don't want it to be that somebody looks at my work or somebody looks at something that I do and just says, oh, he just used AI to do it. No, I built it. I made sure that I refined it. I made sure that it was linked to me. That way it's not everything AI. I also added my little touch into it.
Hello and welcome to Paperless Pathways, a podcast for stars by stars. I'm your host, LaShana Lewis, chair of the Stars Advisory Council. This season, we're exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping the labor market and how stars are not just adapting to AI, but learning to lead with it. Today's episode is called Prompt Engineering for the People, and we're breaking down a powerful idea that talking to AI is becoming a new form of digital literacy. There's a lot of noise about prompt engineering as a job title, but in this episode, we're reframing it as a foundational skill, one that can unlock productivity, creativity, and visibility for stars across industries. Joining me today is Nuri Montilla-Rivas, representing Career Circle and their partnership with IBM Skills Build, which is helping expand access to AI skill building pathways. And we're also joined by Charlie Tranquilino, a star who completed IBM Skills Build and leveraged those skills to upskill and pursue better employment opportunities. Together, we'll explore how effective prompting isn't about being technical, it's about being intentional. And it's about using AI as a co-pilot to clarify your thinking, communicate your value, and shape your own path forward. Let's get into it. Charlie, Nuri, thank you so much for joining today. Nuri, feel free to tell the people a little bit about who you are and about what you do.
Yes, absolutely. So excited for this conversation. I am Nuri. I lead our strategic partnerships at Career Circle with our community partners and training providers. So we work with any organization that supports stars, folks that are embarking on their job search journey, and we're really centered around supporting where skills go to work. So ensuring that folks have the skills that employers are looking for, and then helping them connect the dots along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Charlie, feel free to tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hello, my name is Charlie Tranquilino. I'm a desktop engineer at Champion Home Builders. Um, what I do basically is provision computers, send computers to different plant locations across the United States. Now I am owning parts of the provisioning process, the QC process, making sure that the computers are set up properly, making sure that users on their open or out of box experience is um good and everything on their computer works as it should. I got into AI early on in my career. This is my second year working in IT. And I got all my experience um learning from Perscolis, and I was able to use AI in order to not just boost myself professionally, but also academically and learn more from it as well.
Awesome. And I love the learning journey too. And Charlie, you and I kind of have something in common. I found out we both went through tech systems. I also went through tech systems for a while. So we both went through some of the same kind of, preliminary staffing agencies.
Yeah.
So it's always great to kind of see how people do, their make their transition through different forms and different systems in order to get to kind of where they are. So I like sharing that as well. All right. We'll start with the first question with Nuri, if you're ready. So With the title of our episode today is Prompt Engineering for the People. It sounds very political, like somebody's running for office. But tell us a little bit about like what comes to mind when you hear prompt engineering for the people. Like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to kind of define what prompt engineering is in the first place because I think a few years ago I had no idea what that meant, right? But it's really about having the skill of asking AI the right questions in the right way that is useful to you and yields high quality results. So it's less about coding, which 3, 4, 5 years ago, that's what I thought it was all about. And it's more about obtaining clarity through the technology. So the better you communicate with AI, the better it will perform. And when I hear that phrase prompt engineering for the people, I more so think about access. For a while, prompt engineering has been positioned in a way that's very technical. And the reality is that prompting is all about communication. It's about asking the right questions, giving very clear instructions. And those are the skills that people already use every day.
Excellent. And thank you for giving that definition too, because we know some people are on their one-on-one journeys, as I say, where they're just like, I know how to, type up on the chat bot,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
that's
was
all I
there
know
too,
about
so I
AI.
get it.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know what all these definitions are. So thank
Yeah.
you for giving that. And here's another opportunity to give a little bit more of a definition. Um, when you like see people talking to AI and you're like, doing that as a form of digital literacy. And obviously we see that as digital literacy and not just like a technical skill. What does
Right.
that mean to you? And again, feel free to drop some vocabulary. I'm sure Merriam-Webster will be happy to have things
No.
defined as we go along.
Believe me, I had Merriam-Webster open when I started my AI, digital literacy journey myself, so happy to help here. I think when we think of talking to AI, I've made things like ChatGPT my best friend in life. So when we think of digital literacy as the first step, that's really having the ability to effectively and I really like to emphasize responsibly use technology to find information, solve your problems and communicate effectively. And so I think to demystify all things AI, it's important to not see it as a technical specialization, but again, see it as technological, digital, and AI literacy. So the ability to translate your human intent into a structured output of sorts using technology. And so what I've seen in today's market is that digital and AI literacy aren't foundational. They're very core to how folks can streamline anything in your life, and it doesn't have to be specifically work related either. It can help your day to day, like if you're looking for a new workout routine, if you're trying to determine a new recipe, or make one yourself, but you need a little bit of some creative outsourcing there. AI has been so helpful for me personally when it comes to that. And I think when we think of AI within the professional realm, it's no longer something that's optional anymore. Recent data illustrates this perfectly when we think of research from organizations like the World Economic Forum, for instance. They show that AI has really been augmenting jobs, and we're going to see that trending through the next decade. And IBM research also shows that over 90% of employers say AI skills are becoming critical in hiring decisions. So there's obviously a little nuance. AI isn't removing the human element. And I think that's what a lot of people fear, that AI will be replacing them. But I believe that AI is actually raising the bar for the work that you do. And so people that know how to communicate with AI and the technology clearly have an advantage. And I always say that AI is replacing people that don't know how to use it.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's becoming quickly like this foundational skill.
Yeah.
Like when people were going into like using a cell phone, and I know I'm dating myself. I remember back when there were the cell phones were the big chunky things that looked like bricks that you had in your hand. I actually went to a Selena exhibit, and it showed the cell phone that she used to use when
Yes,
she was
yes,
going on tour. And it was, one of those huge, heavy, the bulky things.
yeah,
But now, having a cell phone is kind of, a primary thing that most people have to have. I've now moved into apartments where you can't even find a phone jack anymore within
yeah,
your apartment.
I believe it.
Because they're just like, well, nobody really does landlines anymore. Nobody's like sending faxes.
Right.
So, now you need to learn how to use a cell phone just
Yeah.
to do your day-to-day things. So, what prompt engineering, talk about how like that is becoming one of those foundational principles that people need to kind of grasp onto.
Yeah, I think I don't see prompt engineering as a specific job title, and I feel like folks are thinking AI is going to replace, jobs that we would typically apply for. What's the job title that aligns with it? I think it's more so, a foundational workplace skill, as you mentioned, like writing a strong email or leading a meeting. AI literacy would fall alongside that with prompt engineering.
Awesome. And, that no, it's exactly what you said. It's like, something that, you kinda need to bone up on and be like, top of your game with it, maybe not the best, but enough to be able to use it functionally as you're,
Exactly.
like, describing. So, say you've got a star, they're coming to you, and they're just like, "I hear everything about the AI and all that stuff, but I'm not technical." So
Yeah.
like, how do I even get into this, thing that we're doing? And a lot of times there's stars who have had to pivot and switch into different careers and embrace newer technology. So where would you start with them?
Yeah, when someone says, "I'm not technical," I'd simplify it. If you can explain what you need clearly to a person, like, if there's something I have to do and I'm, like, telling a friend or a colleague, "This is what my my deliverable is," you can easily prompt AI because that's essentially what you're doing. Think of prompting as giving context, stating your goal, and being super specific about what you want the output or result to be.
Right. So like even with being able to prompt, I was thinking I now have the Google Nest, as people like to say, the spyware stuff, all over my house. So I've got a Google Nest. I've got, and I find myself randomly asking, different things, and now being a lot more collaborative in the types of
Yes.
things that I'm asking. So I might not be asking just for like directions to a restaurant. I might ask, is it busy during this time of the day?
Yeah.
Or when's the best time to go, or how late can I make a reservation, and blah blah blah. So I'm asking more intellectual and more stack things.
Tap into the STARS Resource Library through Tear the Paper Ceiling, built to support stars like you with real tools, guidance, and pathways forward. These resources are here for you to explore, learn, and use as you build what's next. Share your story, get connected, find community. We're building this movement together, and every star voice matters. Let's keep tearing the paper ceiling for good. Visit tearthepaperceiling.org/stars to get started.
As you're explaining to people who are just like just getting their head wrapped around AI, what are some ways that you see that it shows up like in everyday work where people are doing it and maybe they don't even realize that they're using some of the same principles found in prompt engineering?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it shows up everywhere, as you just shared. I think when you consider drafting an email or having it summarize a meeting, brainstorming on a project that you're working on, rewriting your resume, or breaking down a really complicated topic into something that is a bit more simplified and digestible for you. It really can show up in any scope of or body of work that you're working on. And I even think like recently when you Google something or use a search engine, you're going to see that the top result is generated by AI, kind of gives you a summary or synopsis of what the best match might be for your search. So it's really not about code, it's about gaining clarity. So I think that's a good way to reframe it when you think of AI and prompting. And again, clarity is power in these instances because when you learn how to structure a prompt, you're really learning how to structure your own thinking. And I think for stars, that's very powerful because when they're in systems that weren't historically built for them, learning how to navigate and leverage those systems changes the game. And AI is essentially doing the same thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nuri. I will give you a break. I appreciate you kind of zooming through, giving us kind of a structure to talk about prompt engineering and taking us into our AI journey. I like to switch it over a little bit and try to give you a chance to talk as a star. As Nuri was talking, I was thinking, what is your perspective of all of this? Like, what was your relationship with AI tools, and even kind of talk about like how did you even fall into it? Like, I fell into tech. I I was not doing tech, but I was the one that was kind of the more technically minded. I had systems thinking at a very early age, so it was very easy for me to understand and wrap my head around programming and building computers and building machines and things like that. So, like, talk a little bit about what was your journey like into this new world of AI, new-ish world.
So at the beginning, for me, I was also skeptical about AI. I didn't want to use it. I thought, yeah, it's gonna be taking jobs. I need to learn how to be better than this. No, I need to learn how to, I guess, rise above it. But at the same time, there was always little details, little key details that I would always be missing. So one day I just figured might as well see what it can do, see if it can help me. And yeah, it helped me. I was able to understand it better. And when I'm able to understand it better, I can explain it better. And that helped my trajectory like 100 times more, you know? Um started off with simple projects, simple little tasks. How do I do this? How does this get done? Um and it blew up. It became a part of my daily life basically. Started helping me write emails, position myself better in a professional sense. um I was able to not necessarily decode, but place myself better to understand what they want, what the ask is, and how to answer, how to reply to that, you know?
No, that's great. I think about every day, like, how am I using it to the best of my ability? Because I have to kind of break in my head the difference between like the standard way that I'm used to using computers, which is you enter in the code, you tell it what to do, you refine it until it does hopefully the thing that you've been trying to get it to do. And then like that's the extent of it. And now something that's kind of more dynamic is a different way of thinking, when you're approaching it. It's like, okay, well, how can I now use this to kind of, even automate and ask myself, what are some things regularly that I would have done manually that now I can have this new tool or technology be able to do for me. So, in that, did it make you feel like, I gotta realize, like, how do I talk to this technology in a different way? Because it sounds like also you have a little bit of like coding and technology background with that, with systems engineering and with software engineering. Like, how did it change that for you?
So I have a technical background. I don't have a coding background.
Okay.
AI actually helped me with that. But the only thing that I did was make sure that like I gave it the correct prompts. I made sure that I communicated effectively so that it understood what I wanted, how I wanted. But even when I would do that, sometimes it wouldn't fully grasp the entire picture of what I wanted. So I would have to go from expecting this to being able to nitpick it and go in line by line and edit it the way that I wanted to show, you know? Um, and now I just use it in terms of professional help being able to word an email to my boss asking for, oh, my I had an accident. Can I take time off? Could I work from home? Could I, just be able to not just blurt it out, be able to professionally speak. Um, it helps with getting meetings set up. It helps with note taking. That way, I'm not, going into a meeting and not knowing what they're talking about. Coming out of the meeting, having the key points, having everything just written out for me to be able to speak on it the next time that we would meet.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm starting to find the experience a little bit weirdly dystopian because like where is this all going to lead to? I don't think we're necessarily at the age of Terminator, but we're still kind of trudging our way through, as we're starting to understand it. And I want to switch a little bit and talk a lot about like increasing productivity, because a lot of times what's happening with work nowadays, as things get slimmer and leaner in the workspace, we can kind of get burnt out. We can kind of like be burning the candles at both ends, which my wife yells at me about it all the time because that's what I tend to do, but I try not to. But like, how could we use something like this as a tool? And Nuri, I'll let you chime in, but Charlie, if you have something that you want to, pipe in about that, please do.
So for
Yeah.
the most part, oh, my bad.
No, go ahead, Charlie.
For the most part, the thing that I use AI for the most is building my resume up in a professional way. Being able to take my experiences and actually put that in a way that it's favorable for a recruiter, that it's attractive to a recruiter, that they say, "Oh, this guy has experience in this, this and that." Um and just being able to talk on it, not just have it spit out words for you to use and then you go into the interview and not know what you're talking about. Actually give it the experience that you've had, what you've done, what you've built, what and just write it for you professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is probably the most important part of AI use for me is how can it make my life easier? And I think everyone should use it for that reason too, because AI doesn't replace effort. It's supposed to really reduce friction. So burnout often comes from doing the same thing over and over, like any repetitive effort that you have. So think of when you draft the same email or the same document over and over all day, every day, or organizing messy notes. I know Charlie alluded to using it as a note taker. I record every meeting I'm in so that it can take notes for me and I could be more focused and present in the conversation. Or those moments where you have to start a project and you're planning for it and you're just staring at a blank page the whole time. You don't know where to start or organize your thoughts. That's what AI really does well for you. Use it to your advantage to really eliminate that blank page tax of sorts and help it help you create that first draft faster. And I think using it in that way will help folks structure their thinking quicker and help them move from just having an idea to gaining clarity really fast. So that doesn't remove the responsibility because your thoughts are your own. AI is really there to remove the unnecessary strain on getting things started. And as an example, if you think of how you spend your time with like project planning or drafting a proposal or things of that sort, that could be 45 minutes or a couple of hours of your time, but AI can spit it out with a very clear prompt that you used, and you can use your time more wisely spent, right? Use it to refine the output that AI gave you. And I'm sure, Charlie, you have thoughts around that too.
When in terms of like creating projects, I know I'm on LinkedIn a lot and I see a lot of the stuff that like marketing and like just other creators push out. And I seen a portfolio, a resume that looked very, very interesting. And I thought, how can I make something like that? But how can I put me behind it? How can I put my ideas and my details, you could say? Um, that's when I started creating my resume. Well, my resume, but in a portfolio way. Where it has a UI of a device or anything really just being jailbroken with a lot of lines of code going down the screen. And then when you open it, when it says system unlocked, you click on summary and it gives you a summary of my experience. It shares everything that I've worked on, everything that I've done in a professional sense. Then you go into modules and it lists all my specific skills, everything, all the software that I've worked with. And then when you go into processes, it tells you the jobs that I'm working. When you go into history, it tells you my past jobs. And then when you go into logs, it just gives a brief summary of everything, all my past IT jobs or like IT related jobs. And then contact would just be my contact information. I had to keep going back over and over it again because just making sure or giving the AI what uh pretty basic understanding of what I wanted wasn't enough. I had to keep going back in and redefining my prompts and making sure that it understood what I wanted because I would give it prompts and it would just give me bland stuff. I wouldn't understand why it gave me that, but then when I looked at my prompt, it was like, okay, I didn't give it specifics. I didn't specify that I wanted this way and that to show this because it would do something similar, but it wouldn't do it exactly how I wanted, you know? So that's my experience with prompt
Mm,
engineering.
Yeah, and I think
awesome.
um,
Well,
when we think of stars and their use around AI in a similar way, Charlie, I think generally we know degree filters will ultimately shape historical hiring systems that are unfortunately still in use in some cases. But there are tools that help candidates clearly demonstrate, impact that are becoming quite critical. And so, as Charlie mentioned, AI can help you draft quickly, but also think creatively around how to illustrate a portfolio or a resume. So it's really cool how you were able to navigate that, Charlie. But at the end of the day, while using AI, your name is still on the work. So while it will give you ideas or even craft an updated resume for you, make sure that you're validating what it has put in its output. So AI can obviously help you rewrite the bullet points in a way that can show measurable impact. Data is so important to showcase the value of your work, and quantifying achievements, for example, building a portfolio in the way that Charlie has, or even helping you practice your interview questions and responses. And I think for stars, visibility is everything. So using AI not to fake your experience, but instead allowing it to help you express your experience more clearly. And that's like really driving home the importance of self advocacy at scale.
so it's again, it's a good segue, Nuri, when you're talking about what you're doing with Career Circle and how you partner with IBM Skills Build to be able to support STARS learning. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. At Career Circle, our mission is really to bridge the skills gap between job seekers and employers. Our tagline is where skills go to work. And so we support over 200 community partners and have built a network of over 220,000 members on our platform, which Charlie is one of them, that are navigating alternative pathways into employment. And so we operate within our parent company Allegis Group. So that includes operating companies like Tech Systems, as you both mentioned. You've partnered with Actalent, Aerotech, to name a few. But we operate in the capacity of really supporting stars, which gives our partners and members visibility into real employer demand across industries. And so our partnership with IBM Skills Build is such a powerful one because it helps remove those skills barriers. Through Skills Builds, learners can have access to over 1,000 free courses, and it's incredible, the different learning pathways and modules that they have. And at the end of most of those courses and modules, skills, they're able to earn a digital badge or credential in topics like AI, cybersecurity, data analytics, and other professional skills. And what's really cool about IBM Skills Build credentials is that they're aligned to employer signals and what in demand skills they're looking for as they're reviewing candidates for job opportunities. So once they start to work on and complete a learning on Skills Build, they can add it to their resume, their career circle profile as well. And then they can, start to navigate their job search journey with these new in demand skill sets that they earn once completing their learning.
And speaking of which, is there like a misconception that people have about AI learning that this program specifically can help with?
Yeah, and I will say prior to being in the world of AI, I had the same misconception, like AI learning requires having some sort of tech background, but in reality it doesn't. What it requires is having curiosity, which I think is something that stars excel at, and consistency. So the focus isn't about becoming an AI engineer, for instance. It's more so about understanding how AI works, learning how to ask better questions, and practice applying, AI use in your daily workflow. So I like to think of it as a skills portfolio. So some skills are long-term investments. So think of communication, leadership, critical thinking, things that you mentioned, Charlie, around how important communication is to you and how AI helps refine it in the workplace that you're in currently. And those types of long-term skills compound over time. But there are others that move faster, learning how to use tools, platforms, completing certifications. And I think you need a bit of both in this job market, and you really need intention behind it. So it's not about collecting every certificate you can possibly complete or collecting badges. It's more so making sure what you're learning connects to the story you want to tell about yourself professionally, and having those certificates be the evidence of those skill sets that you have.
It's great because it's great because I don't want it to be kind of like collecting stems so that you can have a gauntlet. I'm not going to mention anything else because I don't want to get into IP issues, but we're not trying to get to that.
If Charlie's story got you thinking about AI literacy, here's how you can follow their lead. Charlie joined Career Circle, a place where skilled talent connects with employers who value what you bring to the table. And right now, they've partnered with IBM Skills Build to give you free courses in AI basics, prompt engineering, data, project management, and more. Finish a course, earn a real IBM credential for your resume at no cost to you. Check it out at careercircle.com/courses. Again, that's careercircle.com/courses.
But while you're talking about it, you know, talk a little bit about the mindset and language experimentation that you think that starters could really benefit from when using these tools.
Yeah, I think what stands out to me about working with stars directly, especially within this space, is their power of having adaptability. Like, that is definitely a superpower that stars have. And when you think about it, stars have always been able to translate their experience into environments and spaces that weren't necessarily built for them. And so prompting is just another form of that level of translation. So that requires a mindset shift rather, that matters because when you realize how to talk with AI, it changes what you get back, to the point where a lot of folks suggest say please and thank you when you're talking to AI, right? Because there can be a little shift in the output that it presents you. When it comes to stars specifically, and we think of mindset, it's really about curiosity over fear. So think of learning the language behind AI, learning how to structure prompts, and then curiosity is important. Learn to experiment. There's no failing when it comes to prompt engineering, and really thinking of um, always validating what comes back, because the first time you get something from AI, it might not be exactly what you need it to be. So asking it clarifying questions or a clarifying statement so that it could give you the answer that best aligns with whatever you're searching for. And I think knowing how to prompt is just step one. Um, to the second piece, again, knowing how to validate and also check for bias. And I think that's big when we think of using AI ethically and what separates experimentation from, eventual leadership.
If I can also add on to that, I like how you said making sure to ask it specifying questions. What I would do when I was building the resume or when I was doing any other projects like with data analytics or just IT support was making sure that the AI understood that if it didn't understand what I wanted, it would ask me clarifying questions. That way it could also get to the bottom of what I was asking.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely great because I'm going to skip forward and just ask you, Charlie, for that, what advice would you have to other stars who are just kind of hesitant in getting started? If they're just kind of like, this seems really intimidating. It's, really far into the future, and I need all of this other technical expertise before I even get started. What would be some words of wisdom that you would pass on to them?
Like Nuri was saying, it's a tool. It requires a curiosity, getting out of your comfort zone and asking questions. Just asking questions helps get further along your trajectory. Um, Curiosity, making sure that not just creative curiosity, but also knowledge depth curiosity, wanting to know the answer to this, wanting to know the answer to that, but not just knowing the answer, knowing how to perform the steps to actually get to the answer in case somebody were to ask a specific question. How did you do this? Show your work, they're just gonna assume that you just looked it up on AI. That's also another thing that I take into account. I don't want it to be that somebody looks at my work or somebody looks at something that I do and just says, "Oh, he just used AI to do it." No, I built it. I made sure that I refined it. I made sure that it was linked to me. That way, it's not everything AI. I also added my little touch into it. Um, and not letting AI do everything for you. Making sure that you are getting in there, you are putting in the work, and you are making sure that it's something tied to you, not just something that can easily be recreated by another AI.
Absolutely. And Nuri, if you have any commentary that you want to share, coming from the side of supporting stars, I'll love
Yeah.
to hear that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of things that stars can, immediately do today after listening to this podcast and conversation is being open to experimentation. Learning is a journey. While we on the panel may be using AI daily, there's still updates happening within the innovation of technology behind AI that we have to stick with the times as things are rapidly changing. So it's so important to think of upskilling as an investment on yourself. And a cool way to access it is again through the free IBM Skills Build courses. They're so wide in range with the time and investment that you're making. They could be as short as 5 minutes so that you could get a quick overview on AI, or it could be a course or certificate or badge that you'll get from spending a few hours or a few days of your time on a learning pathway. So there are things like AI literacy, for instance, which is a shorter certificate they can obtain that they can access through Career Circle, and we'll share details shortly about that. But as we think of the use of AI and trying things immediately, there are three key things that I think should be kept in mind. It's really, as you use AI, use a simple framework. Like ensure that they know who you are. So if you're a project coordinator, literally type, I'm a project coordinator preparing for a meeting. Please summarize these notes into 5 bullet points with action items. And that can simplify your day drastically from something you were going to draft yourself to something that's very concise and to the point that AI spits out. But of course, the second thing is to iterate. If the answer that you get at first isn't great, refine your prompt, add additional detail, adjust tone. Like really think about it as your friend and how you'd communicate to someone that you're partnering with. Obviously, you'd want to give them all of the details around whatever you're trying to address so that they can then guide you in the way that you need them to. And then the final piece again is validation, which is so important. AI is really a thought partner, not necessarily an authority. You're the authority. So treat the responses and outputs it gives you as a first draft.
Awesome. Thank you both. I appreciate you taking the time today to speak to us a little bit about what AI looks like when we're looking at empowering people and a great way to tear the paper ceiling in this AI power world that we're getting into. What we heard today is clear. Prompt engineering isn't about mastering complex code, it's about mastering communication. It's about recognizing that the way we ask questions, frame ideas, and guide technology can directly impact our productivity, confidence, and career growth. For stars listening, remember, you don't need to wait for permission to engage with AI. Start experimenting. Stay curious and use those tools to amplify the skills you already bring to the table. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Paperless Pathways on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter to stay connected. Next up is episode 4. We're going to be joined by Aaron Reddick, founder and CEO of ChatBlack GPT. And our topic will be Build Your Own Curriculum, how stars are using generative AI to design custom learning paths. We'll explore how stars are leveraging AI to tailor education and upskilling towards their personal goals, and what it means to design your own pathway in the future of work. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for listening, and keep tearing the paper ceiling.